Colin, I can just tell you truthfully, you're someone that's name has come up over and over again. Matt Foss, a lot of other people have really sung your praises at such a high level. Brett was super excited to have you on here, and we're just excited to turn you loose, man. So I'm gonna shut up and stop talking. But dude, it's all yours. And thank you so much for taking the time here with us today. And we're excited to hear everything you have to bring.
Thanks, Brian. Appreciate it. So I'm starting this on my phone because I don't have my laptop, so be patient with me, guys. But I do have my notes being pulled up here. So I wanted to share with you guys today about just growing at every show. I was looking to plan my year this year, and when you have a really similar schedule every year, and maybe you're not necessarily adding events, but you're trying to figure out which events are most profitable and which events should I do again, maybe which one should I not do again. It really became apparent that the easiest way for the numbers to grow is to just grow the current events that we're doing. So I really started narrowing down on not necessarily only average order, but what sort of things you guys have had a ton of success with this. We haven't gotten to adding second booths yet, but what sort of things could we be doing with our display, with our marketing, with our customers, and with the conversations we have with our customers and the deal flows that we're doing to consistently grow our shows. And so this might cut out my video for a second, but I want to share, or maybe I can just share my, okay. I'm just going to share a couple of numbers then that I just had pulled up from the Vector Connect. Oh, cool. You can still see me. So a really good example of a show that we've done recently that's grown like crazy is this Juno Beach event that we just did this past weekend. So it's a 2-day event. It's an art show. We sponsor it. It's in a really nice area of Florida. But the first year we did this, 2019, the show did $1,900, right? Or I did $1,900 at the show. Sorry, because I'm pulling up my stats. I come back, 2020 is canceled. 2021, I end up doing 12 grand at it. So the show grew a lot. There's a couple reasons for that I'll get to. The next year grew even more. I did 17 grand at it last year. And then this past weekend, I did 11 at it. So didn't grow over last year necessarily. But what was really neat is we're seeing an increased amount of orders, and we're seeing increased average orders. So we've tried a couple of unique approaches to this. So this is in a market where we do a couple different shows. And I'll just share with you what we did with this that's grown at, 5 times what it originally was doing. We've been taking all of the area, anybody that had sold in the area, if we can get any customer lists of kids that had sold before, any old pink sheets that we could find, networking with reps that maybe we had coached, or asking managers, hey, who sold a lot? And we've actually been plugging a lot of these lists into our system, and we've been calling them. So we've gotten back to raw, just calling customers, not just relying on text and emails, and it's exploding our results. So we're driving people to the booth with phone calls for them to check out things. We're driving them to the booth for them to sign up for their service and to learn about service. We're not doing any sharpening at the booth because we're doing our service events. But there's this thing about when we're connecting with people on the phone, especially people that had placed an order 5 to 10 years ago that would normally just be a service call lead, and instead we're driving them to the booth. If you drive someone to the booth and you do an upgrade for them, then they can just ship back their homemaker set in the box that the ultimate upgrade came in back to Cutco, and you really don't have to worry about the service anyway. So we're really trying to be intentional with the people that are just going to buy from the service. Maybe we can drive them to the booth and increase our results. And then on the back end, we're always doing a service event. So we have a 2-day service event here where we drive all the traffic there. So my idea is if I'm going to drive 2 hours to get to the show, I might as well stay a day or two and hit as many customers as I can. So I want to give you guys a good example there. And really, when we talk about growing a show program, I don't know the level. I see obviously some OGs, some people that sell a lot here. But if you're someone that maybe is newer to shows too, I think that's the way that I've always looked at it to grow a show is whatever I can sell at the booth, I should be able to sell at least 50% of that on the service. Or if I'm doing in-home, to actually match the CPO on the service. So our goal is always, if I do 10K at the booth, can I do 10K at my service event? Which it's looking like we will at this service event. We had a big day today. So, that's a way that a lot of times you can just grow your area presence. And then we look at what's the value of a customer when they consistently come back? What's like the lifetime value of a customer, right? Um, and when you grow your list like this and you're adding customers like that in an area really rapidly, that's where a lot of this marketing response comes. So for my actual talk, I just have a couple things about tips at the booth that I've learned over the years that I think really help from a non just numbers standpoint. So I broke this out. It's FAIRS. Okay. So with F, right? For fairs. I don't know. It's just a goofy one. Fairs, right? So we talk about fun but focused, right? So are we at the booth by obligation to pay our bills? Or are we there building a business that we can create a lifestyle with? So that's a question I ask myself all the time. Like, this past weekend, when we were sitting there at the booth, I just remember turning around. We were near the ocean. Like you could literally see the water from our booth and the waves crashing. And it was just one of those reminders that sometimes this job really blurs work and play, where you're like, am I really working right now? Or is this something that I really love? And I love being out here. Right. So, and so maybe that's something to ask yourself, right? Do you work shows as a job, or do you love shows because it doesn't feel like work? Right. Do you feel like you have three families, your birth family, your church family, and your vendor family? Right. We do all these shows with all these different people. We're really starting to build relationships with a lot of these vendors. And when we talk about business gifts, that's where a lot of those opportunities start to materialize. Right. Do you like the team you work with? Right. Do you talk about your problems? Right. We just talk about team synergy a lot and loving the people that you work in the booth with. And, something that I feel like we've all learned over the years doing this is, as long as you really set some precedent for how you like to work and the things that are important to you and the things that irk you, if there's, turn things or things that you've had problems with in the past, a lot of times if it's someone you don't work with often, we've just been really upfront of setting the stage when we work with people on our team and really telling our new team members to do that. And it's eliminated a lot of the issues. So maybe outlining those non-negotiables for you at the booth and the most important things to you, and then, being able to go with the flow. But do you love the team you work with, and are you building relationships with your team? Right. Another thing, right? How many times do I get the upsell, right? So play the game with your booth mate, right? How many upsells can you have per order, right? We had this one this past weekend where I was like, man, that was my fourth upsell. I just kept going until she said stop, right? Have fun, but be focused. Do you have any flash, any things that are catching people? Some people bring in banners, at least having some sort of really nice table display. You guys obviously talk about that a lot. I don't need to get into that, but do you have some flash that's drawing people to the booth and showing that you have a really professional booth presence? And then when they walk up to your booth, is it a super cluttered mess of every single product right in front of hand's reach where they don't even know what to look at or pick up? Or do you have a strategy for how you draw people's eyes and their attention? And, we start, just one thing on this past weekend, we stopped putting our gadgets on the front table and we started putting our gadgets on the side table. And I noticed a lot of people would walk up to the ultimate set that I have and they just start picking up the gadgets because they're sitting in front of it and it's the easy thing to grab. Now people are more going for the knives in the block, which is really what I want. I want them to start familiarizing themselves with knives, not with gadgets. So it's just, what do you want to focus on? Are you doing video testimonials at the booth? How can you draw a crowd, right? Everybody wants to see the big thing that's going on. So are you the person that's just sitting at your booth on your phone, kind of waiting for the people to walk up? Or are you constantly having fun and building a presence and building all this energy at your booth, that the 46-year-old testimonial that you're like rolling your eyes that you've heard for the 10th time today? Or is she like on camera feeling like a rock star, right? And everybody's coming around to see what's going on. Another joking with people in a professional way. I think that we can all, we all relate that there are some reps that are really good at being really upfront and maybe crossing the line with some of those jokes in a really good way. Not like unprofessionally, but really like maybe saying the thing that you're like, okay, got him, right? You can help me with my early retirement. That's just a funny one. I'll hook you up, but I have to eat ramen for the week, right? Just have jokes, have some fun with stuff, right? Yes, it's expensive. I'll cut you a deal. Band-Aid sold separately. Happy wife, happy life, right? Are you that likable vendor? Or are you just some Cutco rep that they see once in a while? Right? How much do you support your other vendors? One of the best things I heard with this, if you really want to sell a vendor at a home show, especially if they're a business gift prospect, get to your show a little bit early and have them cut your big leather strips into smaller pieces. It's funny how you're not doing it to sell them anything. You're like, hey, can you help me with this real quick? Nobody says no. And just make sure you have your big leather pieces that you're going to cut down anyway yourself. Just be like, here, can you just help me cut through these real quick? And subconsciously you're selling them with a leather demo. Really good, easy way to interact with your vendors, meet them at the beginning of the day, and also get them super tied into the Cutco. So now all they hear all day is people that love it and are buying it. And at the end, that's a sale every time. Always smiling, always standing, always active. Fun but focused. That's F. Okay. A, right? Attitude towards all prospects. So what's an attitude? It's a state of mind or a feeling, a disposition. You know, how do you rank yourself? Anybody can sell to Mrs. Jones that went to Cutco.com to find out where to buy and come to your show, right? But out of 10 people that walk up to the booth, how are you really working with people? How are you keeping your attitude up? We had this thing the other day at this really slow show where I had this customer come up, and husband and wife, like the first set that I had really like legitimately felt like I got to work on someone with for the day. It's just a rough day. And so we're at a Siggy with steaks. And it's one of those where it was like, oh, they end up walking, and I did the whole objection handling, everything. And at the end of it, I was like, dang, I lost that Siggy, right? And this feeling of like emptiness of like, if only, and just this, it's not good for your attitude. And we rewinded, and guy I was working with, Tyler, he was like, yeah, but like, were they even a Siggy prospect in the first place? Or were you just really needing your set sale for the day? So you took your 5-piece sale and you forced them into a Siggy and lost it. And now, because you lost it, but really you shouldn't have had it in the first place. And really, if it was a busy show, you probably would have qualified him out. But instead, now you feel like crap about losing that Siggy sale that really was never even a Siggy. So I'm not saying to hard qualify everybody, but how often are we working with someone that maybe we're working with something that someone to sell them something that we really want, that a lot of times if that doesn't go our way, which usually it won't if you're taking that attitude with it, it's going to affect the way you work with people moving forward, right? So now the second set that comes up who really is a good set prospect, who really deserves all of your energy and focus, instead you have this crappy attitude from losing your Siggy sale, and you're not able to give that ultimate prospect the time that they deserve. And now you could actually legitimately lose the real opportunity just because you've wasted all that energy and attitude and mindset on someone that you should have been maybe working with in the first place. So, just food for thought, right? Maybe don't think about what the booth is costing and what you want to sell. And we've started setting order targets. So I don't want to think about selling 5,000 at a booth, because then my mind is only tuned into creating 5,000. Well, what if the first person that walks up is a Ulti flatware or Ulti cookware combo, and it's already a $5,000 order? Well, my mind was tuned to 5,000 for the day. So number one, maybe I won't even close that order because subconsciously I don't even know that I'm going to sell that much that day, right? You put that in your mind. But number two, let's say I do sell that. Well, now I'm coasting for the day. I hit my goal, baby. I'm good, right? So instead, we've been setting an order target. If we can have a 10 order day, a 15 order day, a 20 order day, 20 order days are hard to get, but those 10 and 15 order days, then hey, you can have that $5,000 order. Hey, well, that's order number one. I don't care how much it was, but let me get my 9 more, right? So if you're using order forms, because I kind of still like them so I can work with multiple people and hand out multiple clipboards, you can foreshadow this in your mind to improve your attitude about getting the 10 to 15 orders by pre-filling them all ahead of time. And if you really have some Zen time, maybe when you pre-fill it, close your eyes and imagine closing what you wanted to close on that one. And maybe imagine a couple of those different situations. That Siggy where you can really close your eyes and you can say, okay, husband and wife here, have that husband cut the leather. All right, have her use that, Teat Santoku and get excited or whatever, right? Visualize maybe a couple of those and while you're writing up these orders and putting the, and numbering them at the top, and I'll number 1 to 10. There's something it does with your focus that really kind of makes you feel like, hey, I haven't arrived yet because I have 8 more orders. And it really helps you stop thinking about that booth cost, because really at the end of the day, the more you think about that, the less you'll sell. Oh, well, I only have to sell 3,000 to cover my booth cost. Well, now you're pretty much limited at selling 3,000. So, good luck selling more than that. Another thing, I don't know if you guys practice this, but I don't ever want to know how much I've sold for the day until I get home. And really, if I can do it and we're busy enough, I don't want to know what I've sold until the show's over. Because there's only one thing that it does, is either makes you feel like you're ahead or it makes you feel like you're behind. And neither of those things serve you at the highest level to keep your attitude up. So I'm a big proponent of, I don't even care where I'm at. I'm at zero. Let me give this customer everything I got and let me close my combo deal. I think another area of opportunity for a lot of people is sitting versus standing. So I think, enough said, Curtis never sits. So, there you go. But really, can you create that energy and keep that energy up? Standing definitely creates that booth presence that's a lot more positive and energetic. Another thing from an attitude perspective, people will really surprise you if you believe that they can afford it. So we've been talking and thinking about this a lot more, but my first appointment of my service event today, I treated her, I don't know what it was. I prejudged her and she came in, single lady, older. I think she had a studio set, didn't really use it that much, whatever. I just ended up showing her like a galley upgrade, I think, with like 6 table knives. Because I'm just thinking, oh man, this lady's not going to want to spend a lot. And it was literally immediately, she's like, yeah, I'll do that. And I was like, dude, what the hell am I doing? And then she just added a pan out of nowhere. And I'm like, why did I treat this lady different? What if I had treated her like she could afford everything that we had and she was wearing a fat Rolex or whatever? And what if I treated her like that and showed her an ultimate upgrade cookware combo? Right. So I think that it was a really humbling moment for me, that just sticking to my process, because people will really surprise you if you believe that they can afford it. Yeah, we can move on with that one. Treating everybody with respect. There's just something about, even when rude people, even when people seem like they're wasting your time, you're building, and I don't even think it's like, oh, we're building our karma here, but it's just like you're putting out what you really want to receive, right? So, I don't know. I've just noticed some people at the booth where they get really easily annoyed with certain situations and with certain customers, or with that old lady that wants to tell her story about owning Cutco forever or whatever. But like, what's the point in that, right? I mean, just remember, like, if you really were to think, if you were to walk up to a Cutco booth in 20 years and you were like a CSP that sold for a while, how would you want that Cutco booth to react to you there? First of all, you'd probably be even timid to approach it. I don't even know if I would. I'd be like, oh, yeah, I did that thing for like 15 years, but like, I don't know. Those are just, look at them. They're sitting down. They're not even probably selling that much. They look like some amateurs. I'm not even going to bother. Right. But what would I really want to do? I'd want to walk up and be like, dude, this was my life for a long time. Like, and then, if that guy was like, well, yeah, are you going to buy some more? I'd be like, well, no, but like, bro, like, this was my life. Like, listen to me for a minute. Right. And so I just think that, like, you can build people up like that, make them feel like a freaking rock star also. And you never know the ripple effect of putting these things out there. Right. So there's a chapter in a book, The Greatest Salesman in the World by Og Mandino. I don't know if you guys are a fan, but it's one of my favorites. And one of the chapters is, I will greet this day with love in my heart. And there's a quoted line in there that's basically like, I will look upon everybody today with love, and with my eyes silently, while looking at them, say, I love you. Right. And it sounds weird, but there's this thing about the attitude of treating everybody with this love and this respect and this feeling of connection, no matter where they are or what they're doing. And we've all probably been at the booth where someone walks up and you have this amazing rapport interaction. Maybe you guys have had this where you're like, I don't know, you commented about their hat, and maybe it was a place that you vacationed, and all of a sudden you're in this like amazing interaction with someone, right? And from there, all of a sudden it becomes a set sale. But like, they didn't really approach the booth looking for knives. Maybe they weren't even really interested at first, but you all of a sudden created this environment and this rapport where this person ended up just, oh yeah, well, I guess we do kind of need knives, honey. Well, tell me about what you got, right? And all of a sudden you sold them a homemaker, but it really started with that connection, right? I'm not saying that we need to build rapport with everybody that walks past our booth, but I'm saying that when you do get the chance, are you really giving someone that energy that creates that connection that they deserve? You might surprise yourself with the people that didn't really come there to buy Cutco that feel connected to you, and now all of a sudden they trust you and they like you and they want to buy something from you. And then one other thing with this from an attitude perspective, when we handle people that want their knives sharpened, even at service events, what can really affect our results? All those no sale people that just don't give a shit, right? But they come up and they're asking for service. So I've started doing this thing where when someone comes up asking for service, I give them a little bit of that customer service feel so that they feel really good by taking my Forever Guarantee page and I turn it over, or I do the Forever Guarantee page and I show at the bottom. And I'm like, well, what's really awesome is part of your warranty, it covers everything. If they break, they chip, they crack, they melt. My mom actually just sent her whole set in for sharpening to the factory, and they didn't even try to sharpen her steak knives. They just replaced them all. So definitely always the best way to get them sharpened, sending them in. And then I know that these people might be local. I might want them at my sharpening event. You might want to do the in-home, but there's only one way to qualify them at this point. So you offer a service that you can always promise, which is factory. And then I immediately grab a 4-inch paring knife and go into an ultimate upgrade. And then I judge their interest on any of those knives. So I'll go, yeah. And actually what's even crazier is the original set that you guys have, people wrote us letters requesting a couple new knives that do some different things because people felt like they only used half their set, right? How often do we use our butcher knife? And I point to it. How often do we use our carving set, right? Even our bread knife, right? So they actually came out with some new knives that were way more useful than the original ones, like this longer paring knife. Here, check this out. Yeah, and then instead of making a big chef, they make a small one. Here's your mini chopper. And I get these knives out like one use and try to get like 5 knives out on the table as fast as possible, or keep going if they're into the upgrade. But if someone's just kind of like, yeah, whatever, or like they won't cut something, or the husband walks away during this, or anything that kind of sets you like, gives you that feeling, I'm not setting them for service anymore. So now they have factory service information. My hands are clean. I'm not going to some charity service call, right? Where someone's just not even going to buy in the first place and they just need them sharpened, and everybody's happy in this instance. So something I really encourage people to do is they just go like all for like collecting all these customers' information and have this huge list of all these service call leads and all this stuff to follow up with all the time. I'm like direct schedule or die. It's like either like they're going to ship their knives to the factory and I'll try to sell them right now, or they're going into the schedule for a service event right now. I haven't actually collected a service call lead in several years, just because it just is what it is. Yes, I put some people into my marketing and whatever, but I don't have any lists of leads that I've collected from shows anymore. They're either in the service event now, they're in the service event that's a month from now, or maybe the service event marketing list, but I plug them right into my CRM right away and my texting. But there's no transferring of all these lead lists of people that really like shouldn't even have been on your list in the first place. Hey, how do I get my knives sharpened? Oh, well, go ahead and give me your information here. We come to your house. Like, what the hell? Yeah, I'll call you never. And then they walk up to my booth and come to my service event, right? So I won't stick on that too much, but trust people that they might be smarter than you think they are is another thing. So sometimes one reason that we put a lot of knives out really quickly is because if you've ever done this, people choose a bunch of the different knives that you didn't think they'd choose. It's kind of weird. Like we started putting bird beaks out there and Santoku carvers and cleavers more often. And like when I'm like, okay, well, you don't want the whole upgrade, which knives are you going to choose? And people start choosing like the weird ones. Then I'm like, wait, you don't want like the Hardy slicer, petite Santoku and cheese knife. You want like a cleaver, a boning knife, and a Santoku carver. Like, I'm glad that I asked you that and kind of had all these knives out that maybe I don't normally get excited about selling, because the customer, trust the customer a little bit. Like they might really know what they want and what they need. And we don't always have to be the Cutco knife expert that's like teaching people something all the time. Sometimes it's like, hey, we sell a thing that cuts food. Like make this simple. Like we don't need to correct people. Oh, that's not a serrated edge. That's a double D edge. Like, no, dude, we make a sweet serrated edge. Check this out, how it cuts. Like we don't need to make this, like take this so seriously. And that really helps with your attitude, right? Because now your attitude towards prospects isn't like, hey, oh my God, look at this amazing world-class thing. Like, yeah, good. But instead the attitude is like, hey, come by, check out some knives. I know they're not a big deal. You're not buying a boat, so let's make this fun. Okay. People buy, I heard this quote recently. People are interested because of logic and they buy because of emotion. And that one really stuck with me. I was like, okay, I'm never going to make this make sense for someone. And even if I do, they'll still want to think about it. But if there's some emotion attached to it and people feel a certain way and there's some energy and maybe I nailed a little hot button that I can keep nailing on them that creates a little need, then instead of it making sense, it's just something fun to buy. And at the end of the day, people spend $1,000 on fun things all the time. Why not make the knife set just a fun, cool, whatever thing to buy? Not this super serious, life-changing, like, no, you're buying a knife set to cook. Like, it's not a big deal. Like, it's $1,000, take it or leave it, right? Even $3,000, like, take it or leave it. It's not like, people go into home shows and buy a massage chair before they even walked up to your booth. They're like $7,500 deep. They didn't walk there to buy that massage chair that they're going to sit in 3 times and then it sits in a corner for the rest of their life, right? And another thing, how can you create an opportunity and turn it into a client for life? Sometimes I'll be like, okay, sweet, we sold 11 grand at the show this weekend, right? Or I did the show. I think we did like 24. But what you really think about is how many of those customers I sold today are going to buy again? The show wasn't just worth 11,000 CTO. The show was probably worth like 30,000 CPO, right? If you really think about it, everybody that was at that, maybe not everybody, maybe we just say 50% of those people buy 1 more time or 2 more times, right? I mean, it's pretty crazy when you look at the life cycle of the business, how 11,000 CPO is not just 11,000, it's really 20 to 30,000. And that's why the orders matter. Because if I can add 20 customers to my database, that's going to give me higher lifetime value of that show when it grows. So that's A, attitude towards all prospects. I, okay, so FAI, right? Because we're spelling fairs. I is inviting them in to learn and demo the product. What is the definition of an invite? It's to ask for the presence or participation of. It's to request formally, or it's to welcome and encourage. I noticed when I worked with Andy Gianti, when someone came up to the booth, it was just such a different interaction he started having with people that was so based on the way that he invited them in to learn something. So I remember we were at Epcot and this couple walked up. And they just walk up to the booth and they're just checking out. They pulled some knives out of a block, whatever. And I just remember Andy saying, "Hi guys, how are you?" And then he stuck his hand out. I said, "My name's Andy. It's a pleasure to meet you. What's your name?" "Okay, good. What's your name?" "Okay. Where are you guys from?" "Awesome. What brings you here?" And he had this it was just this different way that he started this interaction where it had nothing to do with knives. And it was this real inviting greeting where they felt really connected. And then I also remember him using their names like every sentence for the rest of this interaction. And it just, this warmth was at the booth. And so, are we there and we're just sharking out our orders and like, "Hey, who's looking to buy some Cutco? Hey, you looking for a good set of knives, blah, 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 blah." Or are we like taking our time with the right person in front of us and introducing ourselves and making it feel like a real interaction where someone feels welcomed and they feel encouraged to participate? Right? Is it your first year at the show? You guys come every year? I mean, this is valuable information anyway, right? Get their permission, then you have their attention. Another thing with this, I am not a big fan of like, are you guys looking for a good set of knives? Do you want to upgrade your knives? I'm not a big fan of qualifying anybody until you've piqued their interest already, because they have no idea what they're interested in or they're not interested in, right? "Hey, I'm going to do a service call. Just be ready to, look at more products when I come over." "No, I have everything I need." Well, you know why they say that? Because you haven't even piqued their interest yet, right? So if I'm going to be doing a service call for someone, I'm not going to say, "Hey, just be open-minded to adding to your collection when I come there," when they don't even know what they're going to add. I'm going to show them something really freaking cool. Hopefully not a cheese knife, something that's, not going to kill your sales. So like, maybe a Petite Santoku. And I'm like, "Yeah, we've actually come out with a couple new knives. They're really awesome. You're going to love them more than your originals. So I'll just show you those when I come over." And now it's not like making someone feel a certain type of way. They're like, "Well, yeah, I'm kind of interested in that actually. That sounds great." Right? So like before we qualify someone at the booth, if they look remotely qualified to you or they're interested, get them to cut some leather as quickly as possible, right? Brandon Brown style, just get the leather in their hands. Now you know if they're interested or not. They know if they're interested or not. If they go, "Damn, okay, maybe we do need some good knives." Now, like, well, they've kind of qualified themselves. And so you don't really have to ask those weird questions that you know, are kind of putting people in a box before they're ready to be put in a box. Another thing, how do we get their permission to ask for a demo that's really cool and kind of keep the energy up, right? So can I show you something really cool? This is one we use all the time. Hey, I'll interrupt my rapport on purpose. Hey, by the way, can I show you something really cool? Can I get your opinion on the best-selling pieces? I have to show you guys the #1 seller at the show. Have you guys seen this new one? Can I have you try it really quick? I know you have plenty of Cutco, but I need to show you this really quick, right? If there's one to see, you have to see this one. It all starts with a cut. Less talk, more cut. I don't know your guys' philosophy on food cutting, but we bring potatoes, and I leverage potatoes a lot. There's a lot of ways that you can create this energy and this enthusiasm and inviting people to demo that I think potatoes are very effective with. One of the main things that I've started doing that I don't know if this is common practice, but I've started being able to eliminate the one knife for everything or the trimmer only people by doing a trimmer 4-inch paring knife demo on a potato. So this is something that we'll do at the booth a lot, just to open someone's mind that like literally the trimmer can't be used for everything because it literally just didn't work in front of you. And instead of using it to sell a cheese knife, that it's better than the trimmer and that's easier. And now all of a sudden you're only selling cheese knives, doing it to a 4-inch paring knife and then describing to someone that if it was a tomato, it'd be the opposite, right? So the trimmer sticks, the 4-inch paring knife cuts it clean, right? But if it was a tomato, you would want to use the serrated because anything you can squish, you use serrated edges. Bread, you can squish serrated. Citrus, you can squish serrated. But anything hard skinned, like a potato, an onion, a carrot, that's when you want to use your straight edge knife. So now all you need to do is really look at your knife set and you need the type of edge in each size knife. So the homemaker, we have a small straight edge and a small serrated, a medium and a medium, a large and a large, right? So that's a really easy way to get someone to look at a knife set and realize that there are tools for different jobs, and then you can actually demo and drive that demo home. And now you get that trimmer lady open-minded, not necessarily to buying a 4-inch paring knife, but to rounding out her set. Another thing that's important to note at the service event that we had a realization of today was, why does someone use their trimmer for everything? Because their chef knife's 20 years old and it's been dull for 10 years. So the trimmer is the only knife that cuts anymore. So it really is only their favorite because their knives are super dull, not because they love the trimmer. So I also think that's a really important distinction here. Like they should love their chef knife. They just need to keep up with the Sharpe. For a non-Cutco owner, you know, I think just asking for permission is just so polite and so respectful. So, hey, can I get a quick minute of your time? I'll tell you about this, right? Do you guys know someone that has it, or have you guys heard of us before? Hey, instead of me trying, try this out. Or instead of me talking, try this out. I'm not going to talk your ear off, but it's worth your time, I promise. Right? How can you relate? Do they look like a motorcyclist? We're the Harley of the knives, right? Do they look kind of chic and bougie? You know, hey, we're the Chanel, we're the Coach of knives, right? We're the Tiffany of knives, right? Can you find something to relate with where you can say a super high quality brand that looks like it's super relatable to the person in front of you? That way you can leverage the feeling that they have for that to Cutco. And if you anchor those two, it can open their mind a little bit. So invite, that's I. Last two. And actually, I think I'm running a little short on time. I know I have till 10 after, so I want to leave time for Q&A. So I'll get through this one. So R is real expectations and real stories. How genuine and authentic are you? Or how artificial are you? Right? I'm a big fan of no fluff, right? It is expensive. It's probably the most expensive knives you're ever going to buy, and you're going to love them forever, right? Buy once, cry once, the Mike Dowd, right? You get what you pay for, baby. Right? No one regrets buying quality. I heard a really good one recently. Only the rich can afford to buy cheap, right? Because cheap things you have to replace over and over again. So it's going to end up being a lot more expensive. It's the best way I've heard that said in a while. Only the rich can afford to buy cheap. Right? It's better to buy something once and have it forever. Don't you agree? If someone comes up and you're doing testimonials, right? I mean, testimonials are what sell sets, in my opinion. That's like literally what closes a set is a good testimonial that's well placed, and that you don't let the person talk for too long and you kind of direct that. But a fun way to kind of handle those people, I don't know if you guys already do this, that unsolicited testimonial where like they just come up and they're like, oh my God, these are the best, just buy them, blah, blah. And the customer kind of looks and they're like, that was weird. You're like, thanks, Aunt Joan, I'll see you for dinner. It's just a good one that we've been doing lately, and it creates a lot of laughs at the booth. So thank that testimony and pretend like you know him, but obviously it's a sarcastic joke. Another thing, when we tell with multi-generational and we're setting real expectations, is we've seen, during the guarantee, I just think it's important to note, it might sound like 10 years is a long time to have knives. We've met people with their grandparents' knives from the 50s, a knife set that's legitimately 70 years old, right? That the woman actually bought in high school or shortly thereafter when she was 17 to 20 years old for her hope chest. And I'm pretty sure when she bought those, and that 70 years later, her family would still not be using it. And I bet you that that's the only thing in the house that's still being used 70 years later that was actually able to be passed down like that, right? And I think that's also a really good time when you talk about things like that, the multi-generational stories, to plug in flatware as part of the Cutco Kitchen approach. So this is a little tangent, but I think it's good. When you talk about, and what's the other thing that always gets passed down generation to generation? The flatware. But what's the hardest thing? You can never find a matching piece. Like, we literally had my grandmother's silver. This is a real story, not a artificial story, right? We had my grandmother's silver, and when we had an auditor come by, it was all amazing condition. The set was missing one piece. It literally was worth nothing at that point because it wasn't a complete set. Now, you could sell it for the cost of the silver and what the silver was worth, but the actual value of having that flatware set was null and void, and you could find replacements for that. And that was a real story that we had, that literally my mom was like so disappointed. She was like, how are we missing a freaking piece? This is terrible. So multi-generational, great plug for flatware. And then I think one other thing, agreeing with customers more. All you really need is one or two knives for everything, right? That come up and they say that shit. And a lot of Cutco reps are always like, oh, well, blah, 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 right? No. You know what? Yeah. Oh my God, you're right. Which one or two knives is that? And sell them, and then just start upselling them. You can handle the stuff later, but we can't just really combat head on when people say something by just trying to be the smart person and bring your ego into it and just be like, no, you're wrong, customer. I'm going to prove you right. It's a lot better just agree with them, sell them what they want, and then maybe now you can change their mind now that you have trust, now that you have the credit card, and now you can really start working on this. And we've started doing that a lot more, and we're closing a lot more sales, and it's not one knife sales. You're definitely getting the time to upsell them from there, but just, hey, I want that 7-inch Santoku. Awesome, here's an order for you, right? I just think people can smell bullshit. And the older I get, and the more salespeople I deal with, the more that I'm like, dude, people can smell it. I can smell it. I'm like, dude, get this guy out of here. And last thing on this, are you proud to sell high quality knives that aren't cheap? I'm kind of proud that they're not cheap, right? I'd rather apologize about the price than apologize about the quality. FAIR. You guys ready for the last one? It's S because it's fairs. Because hopefully you're not only doing one show, okay? The last one is S. And there's 3 S's to this one. Show, slice, sell. I'm never going to stop cutting food. It's too effective in the times that I need it. Definitely don't cut with every single customer, but pretty much generally I do. You want the leather, you want the potato, right? What a show definition is to direct one's attention to, is to point out, right? So this has to do with your booth display. That's a whole nother topic. But how much are you paying attention to your booth display? And are you ever walking on the other side and looking at your booth like a customer? The more often that we do this, the more things we realize look weird, like one of the side tables showing bins underneath. It's funny, you walk up to the booth and that's the only thing you see. Or like a bunch of water bottles and like food scraps on the table or whatever, like stuff that isn't Cutco related, just like sitting on the table. you walk up like a customer to that booth, pretending you're a customer, and in your mind, that's literally like the only thing you see. And it's like these things really stand out that aren't supposed to be there. If you're going to show someone, the three sets, are the three sets around you? Or are you pointing across your table and over here and over here, right? Is your Cutco kitchen within reach, right? Are your business gifts within sight, right? And are the things that you're not really needing to sell a ton, like your garden tools and your bacon serve set and your hunting knives and stuff like that, are those on the side table to make room for the cookware? I started putting 2 pans out right next to my Ulti, and then the flatware on my left. And I have literally like 10 times more people ask about the pans now just because there's one right next to me and right in front of me. People pick it up and they play with it. We have a lot more pan conversations like that. And then I can pull them to the side and show them the rest of the cookware. But back table cookware, stop it. Terrible idea. Unless you never want to sell cookware. So when you're showing, do you have the things on display that you really want people's attention to be directed to? Do your sets have steak knives or table knives, right? We've actually started doing if you're going to put your homemaker out, a lot of people not putting it out. If you're going to put it, stainless table knives in the front of the homemaker. We just shit on regular table knives now. I'm like, no, this is the way it comes, right? It's a little upsell, but it's worth it. Here, feel the old ones, right? Yeah, feel how light those are. That's why everybody gets the new ones in there. So we don't even have a set with table knives in it anymore. It's either stainless table knives or steak knives. When you look at your booth, how sexy does it look to you? Are you tiers? Are there levels? Just how's your flow? All right, I don't have to spend more time on that. But the last thing I'll say on that is just get rid of the clutter too. The more things that there are for people to lose their focus on, the less that you can direct their energy, right? Your Ulti, your flat, your cookware, your gadgets. And then you have your side table, right? But can you focus all the energy there? And can your knives be in a block where you can control when they come out to people? I know some people use display boards. I stopped using those years ago because I like using that room for my flatware and my cookware because I just thought they took up all the important real estate. And we're definitely selling more sets without display boards because knives go back in a block where they belong. I mean, like, what do you mean? The price of one knife because it's sitting out here. No. That knife comes in that set. Let me show you the set that comes in. So it's really helped with that. But and then when it comes to tablecloths, one last thing I'll say in this, if you do a lot of outdoor shows, we have been using the wraparound vinyls. And if you've seen my fire booth displays, my most recent one, it says like free lifetime Sharpe at the bottom. I have the same one since 2019. It was like $250. It Velcros to 5-foot tables, so you get extra depth. And I put a vinyl blue cover on it that's weighted, this tablecloth. I literally haven't had to replace this stuff since 2019. So I don't know how many tablecloths I used to go through, but I'd spend like $350 on a freaking tablecloth and it'd get cut or messed up or molded or wet or whatever. And like I was on like a tablecloth a year and I'd spend $1,000 on tablecloths. And instead now I have a weatherproof cover that I don't care how much it gets wet or whatever, it just is fine. And if I need to rebuy the vinyl cover, the blue one, because that gets caught, it's like $30. So one little booth hack, if you do a lot of outdoor shows, vinyl wrap, you can connect with me about that. But that's what I have for you guys. FAIRS. Just to recap with you, F was fun but focused. A was your attitude towards all prospects. I was inviting people in to learn and demo. R was real expectations and real stories. People can smell bullshit. And S was show, slice, sell. So get out there, grow your shows. And I have some time for Q&A here.
Damn, dude, that was fire. That was so good. There was so much in that talk that was so dense, but I particularly love the one-liners. I'm always looking for kind of different ways to quickly position thoughts or ideas or even feelings to customers. I think that's a really underrated topic, I guess, underrated art form, underrated skill. That was so good. Well, I tell you what, guys.